Hey guys, how's everybody this week?
Hey, everybody.
How are you doing this week, Carrie?
I'm doing great, except for I'm not going to lie. Today, the time change has just got me a little off balance. You ought to
Same.
see that short that I posted, my funky looking egg. It looks terrible. Poor egg. But I
Well,
did
it
get
was
some
probably
housework done. So, I mean, I guess I didn't do squat yesterday, to be honest. I was just, I don't know. The day job has been just busy, and
yeah.
I just took a day of rest yesterday.
Yeah, same. And then today I've
Yeah.
just been out of sorts and so I'm running a little bit behind. So,
Better late than
yeah,
never.
better late than never. You got it. Um, hey chat, how's everybody doing? We got Mike Shaw in the house.
William? William's here.
And let's see here. Yeah, William. So it's good to see y'all. All right, I'm going to get this book open on Amazon so I can look at it because I do the Audible version,
Mhm.
but I also get the other version because I like to look at it. So,
Yeah.
Lies my doctor
I
told
need to do
me.
Audible. I just haven't. I've got like so many little subscriptions and I do use them. I'm just like,
Yeah,
"Girl, I need to add one more."
exactly. I get it. I totally get it. Okay, so we were doing what chapters? 16, 17, 18, 19. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
actually reread 15 because, well, I just did. But come to find out, but that's okay because I mean, I read the other ones too. But yeah,
Yeah.
we're starting with the thyroid. Thyroid.
Yes, the thyroid. The one I always worry about, but it's always normal, which I'm glad, don't get me wrong, I'm glad it's normal. I hope it stays normal. But, I've had some symptoms over the years that have just made me really question the normality of my thyroid.
I haven't had
Um,
any symptoms, and so there were some things in this chapter that were kind of surprising to me, just because I've never delved into thyroid. So
uh-huh.
you're probably a lot more knowledgeable than I am on this subject. But like for example, I didn't realize that TSH. I mean, it comes from the pituitary gland, and so it doesn't even. I probably learned this in science class a long time ago and forgot it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Same. I mean, I have to refresh my memory on all this stuff, each time. Let me start out with a quote. It is easy to get 1,000 prescriptions, but hard to get one single remedy. Chinese
ooh,
proverb.
wow,
Oh, there's a lot of truth in that.
they've known this
Um,
for a long time.
and then this is the lie. TSH, thyrotropin stimulating hormone, is all you need to have checked to find out whether your thyroid is functioning normally. If TSH is within normal limits, then your thyroid gland is fine and your symptoms are all in your head.
Oh
Why you
God.
should care. The thyroid gland and the hormones it produces affect virtually every biochemical reaction in your body. If your thyroid doesn't function properly, the result is fatigue, weight gain, memory loss, disease, and even early death. If the TSH test is the only lab test that needs to be checked to assess thyroid health, then so be it. However, a full panel of thyroid lab work and the patient's symptoms and signs need to be considered before the doctor makes a diagnosis. Then let's make sure to check all of it. So, um, and then let's see here. So basically, he was going on to say that way back in the 1970s, the TSH level became the standard way to test for the thyroid. Um, and then, all of these doctors were just like, oh, great, this is so easy.
Mhm.
And then in 2001, an article in The Lancet discussed the potential problem and suggested that at least TSH free T3 and free T4 should be checked to minimize the chances of overlooking hidden disease because basically, as you were saying, the pituitary stimulates the thyroid to produce TSH, right? Let's see here. Is that right, Carrie?
Yes.
Ask the
Then
nurse, right?
likewise, then if it's producing enough, then the TSH goes down,
So so
right?
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like a loop,
Mhm.
okay? And it's constantly checking and telling, "Oh, yeah, you probably need to produce a little more," kind of thing. And but there are problems that can arise in that feedback loop. And so that's why, without delving too deep into it, we're not thyroid experts, but yeah, many doctors have told patients that their thyroids were fine after a test returned to normal TSH value, even though the patients have had serious thyroid disease and serious symptoms. And one of them, for example, could be antibodies, and
Yes, the TPO
Hashimoto's.
antibodies. Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, and then he gave some really good resources here that I want to check out. One was the book The Paleo Thyroid Solution, and he said that this was written by a patient who was so mistreated by multiple doctors that she began a personal study and taught herself to treat her thyroid condition.
Isn't that sad,
And
though?
it is very sad. And it contains a in-depth commentary from integrative physician Gary Forsman. Um, and then, any doctor that's willing to look into like functional medicine, integrative medicine, holistic, naturopath, anything like that, to me, that is a sign of a good, doctor, a thinking doctor, which is what I want for myself. Um, you know, and doctors are just like anybody. I mean, there are nurses out there that are not what I would call thinking nurses,
Mhm.
you know, same principle. There are probably people at Walmart that are the same, they're they are not doing their job to its fullest. And
Right.
personally, I want somebody who's going to do their job to the best of their ability and treat me as they would their own mother, essentially, or their sister or their
Mhm.
friend. Explore all avenues. So, what you got to say about
Well, I definitely agree with you. And
it?
the thing is, of course, like Dr. Berry points out, I mean, there's human nature involved. And when there's a so called easy way to test or to screen, I don't even know. I mean, they probably learned it in medical school. I mean, I'm sure they learned how all of that works together. But in terms of just like figuring out a problem, because so many people, they do have the symptoms of being tired, they have no energy, they have the weight gain. These things are, and they come into the office for that. But then if the TSH is normal, it just goes over their head. They don't think about going further with that. They might go into just, oh, are you depressed? Or, and that could be,
Yeah.
you could be depressed, but it just seems to me like there's that's sort of like the first avenue I think that a lot of people go toward. It's like, were you under a lot of stress? Or and
Yeah.
stress can definitely impact your health, and I'm not saying it can't. But it just seems like when there's one test like that, it's kind of like the LDL cholesterol thing. It's like, okay, your LDL is high, we'll give you a statin, and now you're good for heart disease, which of course you're not. I mean,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
same principle though. Uh,
And a
So,
lot of this comes from insurance companies and what they
mhm,
will pay for and what they will try to fight paying for and what's going to be a headache for the doctor and just the general overall system. The medical system is responsible for a lot of this. It's not always that the doctor is just
yeah,
uncaring and doesn't want to do the best that they can. It's just sometimes they don't have it in them to fight the system. And
that's
a lot of them
true.
are getting really tired and fatigued and just exhausted of that work because of that too.
Sure. I mean, like my doctor, he doesn't like confide in me or anything, but I can kind of read between the lines. I have known him for years,
Yeah.
and I can tell that he's frustrated about having to sit in front of the computer. I mean, I think we've talked about this before, and he just he doesn't really even have the opportunity to like look me in the eye and talk to me one to one. He's looking at the screen, asking me questions.
I
And I
know.
think he's probably spends a little extra time with me. I honestly think he does, um, because we've had some good conversations, but he hasn't told me how he feels. I like I said, I've just kind of put two and two together, but and I'm sure it's frustrating for doctors because they've got all that student loan debt. Most of them do. They bought into a practice. They have staff to pay and everything. Plus, they got a mortgage and a car, and they just have gone that route. I mean, they have docitis. You know, in other words, life just happens with them, and they just get caught up in it. And so, if
Mhm.
there's something that kind of makes and they get stuck in the guidelines too. I mean, they're told
Yeah.
what they have to do, and so there's really not much room for them in the current system. Now, my doctor, thankfully, is like he ordered the fasting insulin for me and the vitamin D25. And he just said, I don't think your insurance is going to pay for it. And I'm like, that's fine, I'll pay for it. And I know
Yeah.
that there are some people who don't have the funds to do that. It's not that expensive, but still, I mean, every penny does count, so I get that. But I mean, at least my doctor wasn't like, "Well, why would I order that?" I mean, he did ask me why, but it wasn't with an attitude. He was just like, "Oh, well, why do you want that?" And I was like, "Well, I just want to make sure my insulin's good because and he does know that I'm concerned about my metabolic health." And I said, and then and I did tell him I was taking a vitamin D supplement and wanted to check my D25, and it was so funny. We're going to be getting into vitamin D, so I might save that story for later, but
Okay.
that ended up being pretty funny. That's funny.
Okay. Yeah, don't forget, okay?
Yeah.
But one addition on the thyroid thing, even when I went this year, I don't know if everybody knows or not, but I had such a time this year at my family doctor, and I actually fired them. In my mind, I didn't make a big to do about it, but I won't be going back to them.
Right.
And the main reason was that I told them, I am only here for labs. Like, that is the only reason. I'm off all medications, to which they kind of were just like, oh, okay. Like they weren't like, oh my gosh, that's great. I want a
Yeah.
doctor that's like grabbing me by the shoulders and, girl, that is crazy.
Yeah, no
I
kidding.
want them to be excited about this. I want this to be the goal. Right. And my
Yeah.
functional medicine doctor will be like that. So I can't wait to see her. But they just wanted to order the TSH, and they ended up only ordering, like, they were extra labs that I was telling them. I was like, I want to make sure I get my vitamin D level checked. I want to make sure I get B12. Um, uh, what else did I say? Oh, I said I want a full thyroid panel, and they were like, "Okay, we usually just do TSH." And I said, "I'm aware. This is what I want." And I ran down, the free T3, free T4, reverse T3, all that stuff, and antibodies. And he was just like, "Well, we really don't have any indication to do this." And it just, I was like, "Look, I've got symptoms. I have this third of my eyebrow. I mean, it seems to be like it's coming back a little bit, but for a while it was almost completely gone. And I said, I'm having symptoms, and I've had some trouble losing weight, and I'd like to get it checked. And finally he agreed. But he didn't order the most basic of basic labs, CBC, BMP, magnesium, just basic stuff that you get every year. But he sure ordered that cholesterol panel
Oh,
though.
yeah, they do.
Make sure you get that cholesterol panel. You're liable to just drop dead.
I know.
I'm like, y'all, I have worked in open heart nursing a total of 3 years. I did open heart, like, when you come out of the open heart surgery and you're as close to death as you'll ever be, I took care of you at that point. Okay. I did that for 3 years. I took care of post heart cath patients for 2 years. I've been an ICU nurse for, I mean, I still technically am, but I did that alone for probably 15 or 16 years. And, I've been a nurse for 24 years. still take care of those patients. And the patients that have heart attacks, they're not the ones, like when you look at their labs, it looks just like anybody else's.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily people with super high, LDL, super high cholesterol. They run all those tests on all those patients too. So, you know, it's, I've always doubted that. But anywho, oh yeah, Mike said he was an ICU patient a couple of times. Bless your heart. I've never had to be in the ICU, and I hope I never have to be, knock on wood. But yeah, it's a tough time.
My mother was
Um,
for a while, and she had wonderful nurses, and I just totally respect, what nurses do. I really because you have to have a good I would say in general, I mean, you've always
yeah.
got the grumpy Gus or something like Nurse
Oh,
Ratched.
yeah. Well, those grumpy nurses, they get on my nerves just like they get on yours.
Yeah,
And
but
the
I mean, I
lazy
have
people who are
honestly
lazy, they're everywhere.
yeah.
They're not just working, at the corner store. They're nurses
Mhm.
too.
Yeah,
And
you've got
sometimes
grumpy
doctors,
people everywhere, who are
Exactly.
grumpy, and for various reasons, but, overall, though, I have to say that most nurses that I've dealt with in whatever capacity, I mean, they've just been really good and nice, caring people for the most
Good.
part.
I like to hear that. All right, so let's see here. Oh, and the other homework he gave was the website,
Mhm.
stopthethyroidmadness.com by Janie Blowthorpe. He said a couple of hours of reading and taking notes on this website will make you smarter than the average doctor about hypothyroidism. This site also includes more than a decade's worth of patient experience with both testing and treatment of thyroid conditions. And I have found that a lot of times the patients, especially in these Facebook groups that I get in, like whatever
Well
diagnosis I had, I would find a Facebook group because the patients will tell you more than anything. They'll say,
mhm,
"Oh, make sure your doctor does this, make sure your doctor does that. Don't let them tell you this, or don't let them miss that, or here's how to find a good specialist." The patients know.
yep.
So we need to listen to our patients. All right, chapter 17. If you don't have rickets, then your vitamin D is normal. The quote is, a smart mother makes often better diagnosis than a poor doctor. And I have a great example of that. I actually talked about it last night, but it doesn't really apply to this. So, you know, if you've seen my video from last night, my live, it's, probably about 15 or 20 minutes in, maybe. The lie. You get enough vitamin D from your diet. The fact that you don't have rickets, weak bending bones in a child, or osteomalacia, weak painful bones in an adult, is proof that you're getting enough vitamin D and you don't need to take a vitamin D supplement. Why you should care. Vitamin D is not just a vitamin, it's a pro hormone, which is an inactive hormone that must be activated in specific cells through a series of activation steps. It is involved in thousands of biochemical reactions in your body. If it does help your body in thousands of ways, perhaps even prevents cancer, then you should make sure that you get enough vitamin D every day. If you need only enough vitamin D to prevent rickets and osteomalacia, hold on. My my MacBook did some funny things. If you need only enough vitamin D to prevent rickets and osteomalacia, then you are free to continue not caring about your vitamin D level. There have been several small and medium research studies that demonstrate that getting more vitamin D could benefit health in many ways, but not many doctors seem to care. The USDA was content for decades to recommend the tiniest daily amount of vitamin D possible. Recently, the vitamin D RDA was increased by a small amount, and experts have started to recognize that different types of people, pregnant women, children, and the elderly, need more vitamin D than other people. However, the current recommendation remains substandard for optimum health and disease prevention. Ugh.
That's a
That was a
mouthful,
mouthful.
but yeah. Yeah, and it's
Um,
because, like, looking at, um well, just like looking at what propagates the myth and everything, they talk about like how you can take too much vitamin D, and he had pointed out that there was a person who took 10,000 international units a day, and I'm sorry, it wasn't
Wait, 10,000? It was like
a hundred
100,000.
thousand. It was yeah, it was 100,000. I'm left off a zero. Okay, I'm gonna blame it on time change. Okay,
Yes,
I'm
yes,
gonna
yes.
blame it on time change. It's not my brain, um, or my poor handwriting. But anyway, they had done this, and they did have some nausea and some body aches, and but that was it. Once they realized what happened and they corrected the dose, then everything went back to normal. And he said that he did not find any cases of a serious overdose that was reported. And that was at the time that book was written, and I presume that that's probably still the case. I actually had made a mental note to myself to look that up, and then I never did, but I don't think that's the
Mhm.
case. So it's pretty interesting. And why is it that they always talk about the bare minimum? Like, okay, well, yeah, nobody wants rickets, but good grief.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, let's
they
just
need
scoot
to.
by, just on the least, the least we can get by with.
Yeah. And then he talks about how he started checking vitamin D25 levels, um, not the
Yeah.
not the 125 level.
Hmm.
In some of his older patients, who were at risk of osteoporosis, and vitamin D25 is much more accurate test and is the only wait, vitamin D25 is much more accurate test and is the only one that should be checked. All right, that just sounded funny for some reason. It says to his surprise, he found that 72 patients out of 100 had vitamin D25 levels below 30. Normal is 30 to 100. And in his opinion, optimal should be 50. Optimal level is 50 to 100. That means that a total of 72% of his elderly patients were deficient. And he was completely unaware of the situation.
Hmm.
So,
And and so speaking of that, so I had asked for my vitamin D
oh,
25,
yeah.
yeah, 25 level. And he asked me why I wanted that. And I said, well, I've been taking a supplement, and I had been taking 10,000 international units a day, and I had started that back over 2 years ago because, um, not that I was necessarily depressed, um, but during the winter, it's like I noticed the difference in my mood and everything. And I did notice an improvement after I had been on the vitamin D for a while.
Yeah.
So I've just kept taking it. I'm like, I don't want my supply to get low. So I'm just going to keep taking it. And so I just kept taking it. So they called me with my lab results, and the nurse was like, Dr. D said that you need to go ahead and stop taking that vitamin D supplement. Your vitamin D is at 120. And I was like, oh, okay. But I still haven't stopped. I've lessened my dose. But I'm like, even though I know that the warmer weather is coming and everything, and of course, we're gonna get into the
Oh, I
discussion about
can't wait.
the sun. I know, I know, I know, I'm so glad. But I'm indoors the majority of the day. I do try to get out in the mornings, every morning, and get a little bit of natural sunlight, and I try to go out at lunch and sit outside and get sunlight that but I know it's not enough, and what I can get on squeeze in on the weekends isn't gonna really be enough either, so I am going to take some. And what's funny is I do have an appointment coming up this week, and I wonder if he's gonna retest it. I don't know. We'll
Well, I
see.
would have him test it just out of curiosity, you know?
I'm gonna ask this time, I'm gonna ask for the glycated albumin, which is it's kind of like
Yeah,
having your A1C tested, only because the albumin is not really a cell, it's a what is it? He said it was like a molecule or something. But anyway, so they don't live that long, and you can get like a better idea rather because I have a feeling my A1C had gone up some on
mhm.
carnivore. Now it wasn't a ridiculous amount. It was like about three, what is it, tenths of a point. So I had been like 4.9 and it went up to like, no, it went up 4.4 because that now I'm at 5.3, I believe is correct. But it was something
And
like
they
that. And
and
yeah,
they say that that can actually be um, because your red blood cells are living longer, right?
and so that's why I want to get the glycated albumin and see like if that jives with that theory because
Yeah.
I don't eat enough carbs, especially for it to have gone up that much. And we'll just see. But I am going to
Mhm.
have him order that. So I'm just like getting a couple little things here and there, you know. And he hasn't had like I said, knock on wood, he hasn't had a problem ordering them. He just
Yeah.
warned me that the insurance wouldn't pay. And I'm like, okay.
And, that's a good thing about, each person kind of doing their being their own, N of one, doing your own testing on yourself, and doing your own little, like, trials, like, "I think I'm gonna eat this for a while and see what happens,"
Hmm.
because really it only matters how it affects you, you know? It doesn't matter why or any of that. It just matters if it affects you, it doesn't matter how it affects me, you know? So, I think that's what I like to do. I like to do just these little trials on myself.
Yeah. Be
Um,
your own guinea pig.
yeah, exactly. Um, and he says, so if your doctor warns you against taking more than 1,000 IUs of vitamin D, you can be sure he has read nothing new on the subject since he was in medical school. And he says, do as I do. He plays, well, hold on. He plays in the sun without sunscreen as often as possible. He eats lots of pastured fatty foods like butter, egg yolks, and pork. Takes 5,000 to 10,000 IUs of vitamin D3 every day as needed to keep his blood level above 50. Checks his vitamin D levels in his blood twice yearly, and the results show that he is not close to overdosing. He said, I will always take a vitamin D supplement unless I move closer to the equator where the sun is stronger. And homework on this was there's a website called the Vitamin D Resource Page, and it's put out by the Vitamin D Council, and it's a very useful site for looking at learning all about vitamin D and its powers to prevent and heal. All right.
And Nicole is so right. The RDAs are based on a high carb diet, like the whole
Yes.
vitamin C thing.
Yes. And what she said earlier, so the RDA is recommended daily allowance. It's determined by a scientific committee. I can't talk today. Committee based on research on the average population.
Mhm.
So, yeah, do we want to be average?
Oh, I want to
And
be
then,
above average.
and then Mike said carnivores need much less vitamin C. So he's heard. I have also heard that.
Yeah, I've heard
Um,
that the vitamin C, the molecule is very similar to the glucose, and that cells have a receptor that they
Competing.
fight for. Yeah, they
Yeah.
fight for that. So,
Yeah, they compete for the receptor essentially. Um, and then RV there yet. I love that name.
oh,
Howdy
hey,
from Southern Arizona. Hello. All right. I'm gonna look at the comments real quick. Uh, just to make sure we haven't missed any questions or anything I need to post. All right, so moving on to chapter 18, breast milk doesn't contain everything a newborn needs? Question mark. The quote is, it is important to keep in mind that our bodies must work pretty well or there wouldn't be so many humans on the planet.
gosh, isn't that
And
the truth?
yeah, this was Ina May Gaskin. And I like to keep this in mind whenever I hear people say things like, "Oh, meat is bad. Red meat is bad for you," or, "The sun is bad for you," or, just whatever because it just think about what you're saying. Or
Mhm.
in particular, the one that's bothered me lately has been "Oh, too much estrogen is gonna cause breast cancer. Too much testosterone is gonna cause,
Oh,
prostate
yeah.
cancer." It's like, Do you know how stupid that sounds? Um, because and I'm not saying that there aren't, like, some intricacies to it, that are more complicated than that. But if that were literally the case, every, 18 to 21-year-old boy, there would be there would be tons of testic or, prostate cancer, and,
Mhm.
young girls would or young women would have, breast cancer out the wazoo. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Like, listen to what you're saying, you know? I know there's, more to it than that, but it's just okay. The lie, human breast milk is deficient in vitamin D. Babies who are exclusively breastfed should be given vitamin D drops. Now, I had never heard of this happening, and I breastfed 4 babies starting 21 years ago. So, I don't think they're doing this anymore. I don't know why they would have to do it, but
Well, he
had you
didn't
ever
know either, which is why he put the lie in there, and honestly, I don't recall. I was thinking about that too, and I was like, "Did my kid get vitamin D drops?"
I
And I
definitely
don't
didn't.
remember that specifically, but then again, I don't know whether they would actually just tell you, "Hey, I just gave your kid vitamin D drops." I mean,
Oh, I thought it was something that you had to give them, like, all the time or something while you were breastfeeding.
like a well, like, the way he was talking about it, and I could be misinterpreting something, but he was saying that in the hospital that they would give them the vitamin D drops, but
Yeah, I read
maybe
that, but I thought he meant, like, it was
well, they
something
could
that
yeah,
they
I
had to
know
take home or something. I mean, I
that
guess they could have done it in the hospital if it was just, like, a one-time thing, but I also don't know what that would help if you just got it one time, you know?
yeah, and I don't well, yeah, that's a good question. I don't well, but they do have the supplements, though, that you take, like, once a week and once every 2 weeks, the higher dose ones, so it's
Yeah.
possible that they did something like that, but I just don't remember anything like that. I don't remember it being mentioned, but maybe they
I
did,
mean,
and I just don't remember.
so they definitely told me to continue my, prenatal vitamins while I was
Yeah.
breastfeeding, and
Mhm.
I'm sure they had vitamin D in it. I don't know how much, but, he says, "Why you should care. We want our babies to receive the best nutrition possible and give them a head start on a healthy, happy life. It's bre if breath" here I go again. "If breast milk is truly deficient in vitamin D, then we should give vitamin D drops to babies who are exclusively breastfed. If breast milk contains everything a baby needs, then let's not tell new mothers that their breast milk is deficient and that Big Pharma needs to help nourish the babies." So evidently that's what they were doing back when I mean, that was when he was a resident. So he's been a doctor, I think, a year less than I've been a nurse. So probably about 23 years. Um, and so, yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But I don't know. I don't know why. I guess they had discovered that human breast milk was deficient in it, but I think that's because the mothers were deficient in it. And
It falls
evidently
into
the
the other
research
chapter.
What'd
You
you
know,
say?
it falls into the other chapter where everybody's deficient in it, so naturally,
Yeah,
you're not gonna
exactly.
have it in your breast milk if you're deficient because you don't have it to give.
It says that, there was a study done where they began giving mothers 2,400, IUs of vitamin D daily, um, even after, supplementing with this seemingly high amount, the mother still produced so little vitamin D in their milk that the ethics committee stopped the study for the safety of the infants. He then decided to give the mother 6,400 IUs of vitamin D daily, and amazingly, the mothers in the study started excreting vitamin D in their milk. Such a surprise. And that was study was published in 2015.
Yeah, and not
So
nothing, crickets.
said it should have jerked the entire medical community awake, but it did not. Very few obstetricians, pediatricians, or family doctors even know about this study. And I guess they all still think that mothers don't produce vitamin D in their breast milk. So, yeah, hmm. It's just one of those things where he knows too much about the medical system, you know what I'm saying? You know the ins and outs of it, and you see things like that that just makes you scratch your head and think, "Well, this doesn't make any sense."
Mhm.
You know? There are things like that in every arena, every place that you would work, but it really matters when we're dealing with human life, you know?
Mhm.
All
Yeah.
right. So anything to add to that?
Well, just, let's see. Yeah, you covered that about Bruce Hollis giving the moms the 6,400 IUs, and they started producing vitamin D in their milk. So, I mean, yeah, we got that covered. And then, of course, like Dr. Berry and you just pointed out, I mean, how did babies before vitamin D drops get their vitamin
Mm,
D?
exactly,
Where
yeah.
did it come
It
from?
I love the way he thinks, you know, it's
Yeah.
just like common sense. You know, think about it. And I talked about this yesterday also in my video, and that was I feel like once people learn things to a certain level, you know, their PhDs and all this stuff, they sometimes will forget to look at the basic, like, as my husband says, the most obvious answer is often the
What is
answer,
it? Isn't
you
that
know?
Occam's razor? Isn't that what that is?
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah. I mean, he didn't make it up. He just always tells me that.
No, I'm just saying, I was thinking that that was the term that,
Yeah,
like,
I think
"Hello,
that's
Captain Obvious."
yes, exactly. It's like, you know, the most simple explanation is often the right answer.
Mhm.
But yet we'll remember something that was sounded like that, but it was so complicated and rare, and then they latch onto that, you know. And I'll just go ahead and tell a little bit about that from what I was talking about last night. And that was when my youngest son was 4 months old, well, from 2 to 4 months old. He was a failure to thrive. He had what they called they said they had laryngomalacia and tracheomalacia. They said it was severe, right? And that's where you have a floppy larynx, floppy trachea. So when you breathe through it, imagine you had a straw that wasn't stiff. And so every time it collapses, you know. So he had what they call a stridor. So it's like, you know, up here, right, when he's breathing, and he couldn't hardly eat. If he would get gagged the least little bit, he would throw up everything in his stomach. And they tried to say, "Oh, he's got reflux and all that." I'm like, "No, he doesn't have reflux. He has something that's irritating the back of his throat, and then he'll get gagged and he'll throw up." And I kept trying to beat it into their head, and it's like finally I found this doctor. He was an ENT, and he said, "Oh, mother's always right." And I felt like he was kind of humoring me a little, you know, not really believing, yeah, mother's always right. But he was listening to mom, you know, he was listening to me. And I said, "Could you just check?" Because they did this bronchoscopy and they said that they saw a fluid filled cyst at the base of his tongue. But they said that's of no consequence. It's just an incidental finding, just happens to be there, and we happen to find it because we're looking at this severe laryngomalacia and tracheomalacia that he has, you know, in his windpipe and in his trachea and in his larynx. And I'm like, okay, but you know, the pessimistic, you know, side of me that was like, that doesn't sound right. You know, I'm not pessimistic, but just critical. You know, I
Yeah.
was like, that doesn't sound right. It sounds to me like it's probably that's causing the whole problem. So he went back down there and looked, and we were in the office. He was letting his resident do it because he was just standing back, like, "Oh, we're just going to humor mom, you know." So they went down there and they looked, and that doctor, he turned around and he tapped on his shoulder and he said, because he was talking to me, you know, he said, "Look, look." So he looked down there and he said, "Oh, we got to get that out." And I said, "Oh, you think?" He said, "When can you be here? We need to get that out." I said, "I'm here now."
Right, right. Yeah.
So he said, "Okay." He said, "No rush. Go home and get your stuff, then come back and we'll do surgery in the morning." I said, fine, great. I went home, grabbed some stuff. We came back, they got that out, but they said, well, now listen, we want you to know that that is not going to resolve his problems. He still has severe laryngomalacia and severe tracheomalacia, but this is going to help him out a little bit. And I'm like, okay. So after the surgery, I recorded him laying there sleeping, not a sound from his breathing. And I'm like, yeah, I told him. And I brought him back to the doctor and I said, he's fixed. He is a perfect baby now. There's absolutely nothing wrong with him. And they could not believe it. They were just, gobsmacked. Oh, you're wearing your Godsmack shirt. I guess that's what planted that gobsmacked in my head. But they were just flabbergasted that, that was what it was. They couldn't believe it. And I even had one of the residents come up or email me and ask me if he could present my case as a clinical presentation he was doing in front of a lot of other doctors. And I said, absolutely. You tell me what you need, because these doctors need to learn that you don't take something that you think, okay, well, yeah, this could be this. This is part of the differential diagnosis. We have 3 or 4 things we think it might be, and just latch onto one and just be so hard headed that even when the obvious smacks you in the freaking face, you're still gonna go with this and tell that mama that, oh no,
Right.
it's not gonna help, but we're gonna go ahead and get it out now.
I know.
That's what aggravates me about, you know. And it's just humans. I shouldn't even get aggravated because it's not like they did it on purpose. People said, well, are you going to sue them? I'm like, no, I'm not going to sue them. It's a problem my child had, and they eventually got to the right answer. They just needed a lot of,
They just need a little help,
coaching.
a little encouragement.
But yes, some do, and some are great. So
Well, and I do think that you can kind of fall in love with your hypothesis, and that's not just in medicine. I mean, that's in terms of like whether it's science or anything else. It just in your head something sounds so logical, and you're not
yeah,
intentionally um, not considering anything else, but the thing that you think it is, or the method that you think, or the pathway, or whatever, seems so logical and perfect that you just really don't consider anything else. And that's just
yeah,
human nature.
yeah. It really is. It's just, you know, like you said, they're just humans, and but I just, as a nurse, I was able to get my kid the care that he needed.
Hmm.
If I wasn't a nurse, I mean, he could barely breathe. He would stop breathing at night, and I would have to listen on the baby monitor and come and flip him back over because he had to sleep on his stomach or he couldn't breathe. Hey, shh, puppies. Anyway, hush, my dogs. But yeah, I'd have to flip him back over. He couldn't breathe. If I wasn't a trained medical professional, he could have died. I mean, the cyst was growing, growing, growing. It was fluid filled, so it still enabled things to get by, air and food and stuff. But, it's just a scary thought, and I don't know. All right. Sandra. Well,
Yay, Sandra's here.
I'm on a live call. You can get hold on just a second. Okay, sorry. I'm in a different location, so they're not aware that I'm doing a live.
Okay. Is my mic okay to you, Kim? I
I
may
mean,
just
it
end up unhooking this thing. I don't know. I've had mixed results with it when I've recorded, so I don't
puppy.
know. But
Hold on. It sounds okay to me. I'm sorry. I've got to let this dog in before she freaks out. Um, so did you have anything to add to that?
no, I think we covered that pretty well. It's And we all need to, yeah, it's just something that we all need to work on too. Is like, for example, if somebody says that something, whatever they're doing with carnivore doesn't work for them or whatever, and then we think, well, it worked for me, or this is the best way, to stop and think and just consider and open your mind to something new or different. Or
Yeah.
if you think something wouldn't work, you know, open your mind and try somebody else's suggestion.
And, also, I think since we are all so different,
Mhm.
that's why one reason I've never wanted to say, like put out there that I am like carnivore for life, like
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
carnivore for now.
Yeah.
It's working for now.
Mhm.
But I may not do it forever. So I'm not one of those diehard, kind of people that think it's just the answer forever and always. And like I said, I do little tests on myself, and I will continue to do so. And hopefully, I can come to a happy medium of the way carnivore makes me feel, which is absolutely fantastic. And
Mhm.
I don't know if you all heard last night, I'm now off all meds. I was on 15 different medications 10 months ago, and I'm off all of them. Um, and I have resolved just about everything. The only thing I can think of that I haven't resolved with carnivore would be I still do have a little bit of dry mouth, which I thought may have been Sjogren's, because I have some other autoimmune type symptoms. But most of those other autoimmune type symptoms, like I had some Raynaud's type symptoms where my hands would get red and like even painful out in the cold and stuff,
Mhm.
just kind of beginning type um, Raynaud's like symptoms. I hadn't been diagnosed officially or anything. But those kind of things are all gone. The only thing that's still there is a little bit of dry mouth, and I mean, if I have to live with a little bit of dry mouth, that's okay.
It's funny
So
that you say that because I have that. It's just, and it's not like I need to drink a ton of water, but I do keep water close by just to kinda wet my whistle, so to speak.
yeah,
It's not like I've
that's
got
the
this
way I am
driving.
with this.
Yes. It's not like I've got a driving thirst, where I just have to gulp down tons of water, but I just take little sips periodically just to kinda,
Yeah,
and I have kind of wondered about that. I don't know what could really be causing it, but I mean, it's not, I mean, I guess if that's the worst thing I've got, then I'm doing good. If that's the worst thing we
thanks,
have,
Susie.
we're doing
Yeah,
good.
if it's the worst thing that I have to deal with, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I have in the last few days been trying to add, a little bit, like, do a true elimination diet style add back, And I'll do this from time to time, and then I'll be like, nope, don't like it, and I'll go back to eating all meat again. So it hasn't ever lasted more than a few days, but for the last several days, I've been trying a few Brussels sprouts here and there.
Mhm.
And I will tell you that we're not liking the gas.
Oh.
Not to get, TMI or whatever, but we all talk about this stuff
Mhm.
all the time. But
Yeah.
man, I mean, yeah, I wasn't liking that much. But then I tried some hummus last week,
Mhm.
and I tried it for a few days, and the hummus seems to be totally fine. It doesn't cause me any stomach pains, any, large amount of gas or anything like that. And so, maybe that might be something that I might want to keep, but not, I get the little cups that are they're tiny little cups, and I think I can't remember exactly how many carbs they are, but it's not very many, and I won't eat the whole cup.
Mhm.
So, I'm just trying to see what Kim's body's okay with,
Yeah. There's nothing wrong
Um,
with that. N equals 1 is a good thing. And then okay, I don't want that ever again. And but here's another thing too.
yeah.
Um, when I first introduced full fat Greek yogurt back in, and I really didn't remove dairy on purpose. It just sort of
Mhm.
happened that I forgot to get dairy when I went to the store. And so I was like, okay, I just won't have dairy for a while. And so I went for like a couple months without dairy. And when I reintroduced it, I ate too much of it. Plus, I had
Yeah.
already had, I had had bacon, burger patty. I don't think I had eggs, but I did have sardines. And then I just decided I was in the mood for some dessert, and so my daughter had actually brought me some full fat yogurt, and so she knew what brand I liked, which is Cabot's, by the way. It's fantastic, best one out there.
CABOT?
Hmm. They make cheese too. It's fabulous. It's the
Oh,
best
I've
I've
seen their
found.
cheese.
Yeah, it's better than like what is it, Fage or Phage or what, however
Uh-huh.
you say it. It's better than that. It's better than any that I've found other ones, but I'll eat the others but I choose Cabot. But I had eaten too much of it, and and with the wrong other foods. I mean, that combination,
Mm.
my stomach was probably like, "What in the heck are you doing?
Yes,
You
exactly.
dumped all this, this full fat Greek yogurt on top of sardines and hot sauce and burger patty and bacon." It's like, So, but as I reintroduced it, I did it in smaller amounts, and I tried to make sure that I hadn't eaten something that I figured would just like totally clash with it.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want to, for example, like cod livers. I definitely wouldn't want to eat it after I'd had cod livers or something. So, anyway,
I haven't tried those. How do they taste?
the taste isn't bad. I do add hot sauce to them, and they're packed in their own oil,
Okay.
and so that's. And this one I order off of Amazon. It's the brand that Dr. Berry recommends, and I'm trying. I can see the logo plain as day, but I can't remember the actual name of the ones that
Let's
he
see here.
recommends. But they are good. I don't like the texture, so I eat them as quickly as possible. So, but I mean, the taste, like I said, the taste isn't bad at all.
Is it the Icelandic
Yep,
ICANN or whatever?
I can. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
I might have to try that. I'm always up for trying things and, like we say, N of one, I just want to see what works with my body. I want to see what will help me achieve my optimum health. And I feel like I wasn't aware of just how much progress I have made. Um and I kind of sorry, been sick lately. Um but I kind of will get hard on myself mentally and I'll be like, well, this is just not working. Or, it's like you get a thought. And if you go with that thought and you just
Hmm.
allow it to loop and loop and loop, you'll be ready to go back to eating Oreos.
Well,
I
your
mean, I've never
cholesterol will be
really,
lower.
oh, true. I've never truly felt that way. But, it's just, from day to day, you don't see that progress until you look at the stuff you've recorded. And that's why I like to keep
Hmm.
track of things, whether digitally or writing them down. Just keep track of that data. Because even though, like, I've not lost a ton of weight on carnivore, sorry guys, I just haven't. There's so many other factors that have been more important to me than that I have achieved that, you know, I I stick with it cuz I like it. But, it may not be carnivore forever, but, it's for now. And, it's really changed my life. So, if nothing else, it is for sure the ultimate elimination diet. And then add back whatever you're good with. Some people are good with very, 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 very few carbs. Some people are good with a little here and then a little there. Some people are good with, a larger amount if they've achieved their goals and they feel good with it. And, you know, but I think I'll always be keto or,
Yeah, at the
close to
very
it.
least, I'll be very low carb because I'm just
Yeah,
not.
very low carb.
I can't do like salads. I used to like salads, but although it's really the dressings and the croutons and the
Yeah.
berries that I used to sprinkle on there, and the meat, the chicken or whatever was the meat, the shrimp, or it was actually all that I think that I liked more so than just the greens. but the
Yeah.
salad doesn't like me, and it started not liking me. So it's been like well over 2 years, probably closer to 3 years now since I've even had a salad because I just can't do it. My stomach can't take it. So I had
That's the
already, yeah, reduced down to pretty much like ketovore. Like I would still have some
mhm.
like steamed broccoli with maybe some cheese on it or butter or garlic butter or something like that, and cauliflower same. Maybe once in a blue moon some spinach or mixed spinach and eggs. I had always liked spinach and eggs, and
You know
it was just very, but it was those were it. And I didn't eat vegetables with every meal even. Sometimes I just had, like, a
yeah.
burger patty with bacon and some cheese on it, uh, and then it just sorta I just sort of fell into carnivore, but, I may go back to adding some things in, I don't know, but right now I just feel too good.
Yeah,
So I'm not gonna do
exactly.
it at this point.
And that's the why, like, I mean, that's the reason why, I still haven't really added that much back in. Like,
Mhm.
I'll toy around with stuff, I'll say, I've got some of that. Let me try that. Let me see how the tricolor bell peppers do me or whatever. They did me fine, but I mean, am I running out to buy more? No. I mean, it's kind of that thing where if I were to go out to eat with my family, I might eat a salad. Am I going to buy salad for here? Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like it adds that much more to my life, and I feel better when I don't eat it. And the Brussels sprouts, like I wanted to love those because I do love them. They taste so good. Along with the let's see, what did I try a few weeks back? I tried sauerkraut.
Mhm.
I freaking love sauerkraut. It gave me the worst diarrhea ever.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, it was bad. I mean, I guess I probably overdid it, so I might try that again in the future, just like, a little bit of sauerkraut.
Yeah.
But, so the Brussels sprouts, so it's been 3 days and I've just done like a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. But I've had some very intense itching for the last 3 days. So I'm kinda wondering if maybe Brussels sprouts is a no for me.
Oh.
And it's just kinda weird, and I had, like, a couple little, almost zits, just like little irritation bumps that popped up.
Mm.
So I don't know. It's a test, and I'll do
Yep.
another test again in the future, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, so Mike, that's kind of what I experienced. I think I've not really shared a whole lot about like the weight loss part of it just because it's really not that remarkable and impressive. I think it's been right at maybe 11 or so pounds. Um, it was a little bit more initially, and then I actually gained back 7 pounds. So, I think I was close to 20 pounds, and then I gained back 7. So, I don't know, it
Have
may
you
be
noticed, though, like, maybe a body recomposition? I've
but
heard a
that
lot of
yeah,
people
and I
say
did
that.
talk about that too in other videos, but,
Uh-huh.
I have noticed there's a bit of recomposition going on, like, people at work that look at me, they're like, "You look really good, and have you lost a lot of weight?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I'm kind of actually hanging right here for." I mean, it feels like it's been about 6 months now. I've been just
Mhm.
pretty much at the same hanging around the same weight, but my body does look different, you know, so that's a bonus, and I feel great. I
Yeah.
mean, God, I couldn't feel any better. The fact that I don't have any joint pain, my friends are jealous of that.
Yeah,
And
no
I'm talking
kidding.
about my younger friends.
It's really
Oh.
sad. I went to a show, it was actually about it'll be a year ago in the spring, and a high school friend of mine was in a band, and they were playing downtown Nashville, so I
Mhm.
went, and unbeknownst to me, because I'm not on social media, some of my high school classmates were also at this show, and they approached me people started approaching me and was like, "Oh, Carrie." And I'm not saying, "Oh, Carrie looks great," or "Carrie looks just like she did in high school," but when these people approached me, I did not know who they were.
Oh.
that's how and, like, one poor dude, I mean, he was in a wheelchair, and I was just like,
Oh,
"These are people," and looked like he was 90. I mean, it was just and I'm just and it made me very sad. It was a very existential thing too,
yeah.
because you start getting at that age where people start aging, but there again, though, a part of me is just like, do they really have to? Do we really have to age like that? Or is it just our environment and what we're doing to ourselves, what we're feeding
So much
ourselves?
is environment. I mean, I can tell you that for sure as a nurse.
Yeah.
So much is environment. I mean, I'll see patients that were born, around my same year, and I'm like, "Oh dear." It becomes really apparent at about age 40, I think.
Mhm, mhm.
um, there's kind of a fork in the road, and it's like these people have taken care of themselves even a little bit, and these people totally haven't. And there becomes a huge fork in the road there. And
Yeah.
then, you go on down and you have a branch off from the ones that have kind of taken care of themselves and the ones that have really taken care of themselves. And then that, around age 50 becomes more okay, we can kind of tell that you might have tried a little, but you just didn't quite hit the mark. And then, yeah, you definitely took care of yourself. And then there's genetics in there too, you
Oh,
know?
there are because like my now I'm hoping that my prominent genetics are from my dad. I love you, mom. However, and of course, a lot of it I saw the poor diet she was on. So
Yeah.
I mean, I know why she ended up the way she did, the high insulin and all that. But my dad, though, is very, very healthy. He's always been active. Like when he got the virus a couple of years ago, he 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 came home to be with me, but they had tested his heart and everything. And I mean, his heart was fabulous. And he was 80 years old. Well,
Mhm.
81. So, he's got these great genetics. I mean, he always looked way younger than his age. But I will say he never I mean, he can certainly eat, but it was like he never was one to sit down and just, like, chomp on chips or anything like that. He
Yeah.
never did anything like and he's always been active, like, he would walk or walking was his big thing, and he did a lot of that. So, yes, he took care of himself, but then at the same time, I think he did have some really good genetics. And some good news about him, though, because see, he found him a lady love, and the 2 of them together, they would not eat very well, and he knew, especially after my mom was in the hospital and what I was feeding not feeding her, but what I was picking for her to have off of the menu, and she didn't need that much insulin. Now, this was the time before last. The last time I didn't get to see her because of the virus, but this was in 2019. So he knew, and so he had eliminated bread and sugar, and I mean, he had eliminated all that stuff and had done really well. But then she thinks that the stuff that the associations say is healthy. So she's all healthy whole grains. She don't like bacon. She don't like eggs. She don't like that kind of stuff. So she eats bagels and things like that. And so he started eating those things with her. And I found out he had to start taking metformin. And I only said something to him one time. I said, Daddy, you know what you need to do. I said, you don't want to end up like mama. And that was all I said. So fast forward, he calls me last week and says, Minnie, you're going to be, that's his nickname for me. He says, Minnie, you're going to be proud of me. I've given up the bread and the sugars and the pasta. He said, I haven't had any for 2 weeks. I was like, yes, yes. And he said, I'm getting that A1C down. I was like, all right. So you just never know. You never know. But that was a whole long, probably boring story to just tell you that I do believe that there's genetics involved to an extent. But and I hope in my case that I got my dad's.
All right. Does it sound okay? I'm not echoing, Emma.
No, you're not, or at
Okay.
least not to me.
Last night's little episode has me all like worried about it. I need to figure out something with my microphone situation, or bring my big microphone up here when I record up here. Um, okay, let's see here. Mike said, "Good job, Minnie." Oh, oh, and then Darth Carnivore ask, on the glycated albumin, what sort of result will you look for to see if your red blood cells are living longer?
It doesn't actually tell whether my it really doesn't that doesn't really have anything to do with how long my red blood cells are living, and I'm not sure it's the albumin doesn't last very long, and so there's a measurement that they can use instead of the A1C to truly see how much glucose is, like your average blood sugar. So I'm not sure if that's a comparable number to what's on the A1C or not. I'll have to look into like what the lab values would actually mean. But that's
It's
basically
so
a
it
test
says
that
that it says it's a test that reflects short-term glycemia and is not influenced by situations that falsely alter A1C
yeah.
levels. So, like, whereas in carnivores, a theory was that the A1C might not be as accurate. It may
Mhm,
actually be a false high in your strict carnivores, because your red blood cells are healthier and living longer. So they're going through more damage. Imagine
mhm,
an older person, if they die and they're, well, imagine a person who dies, okay? If they die in their 60s, they're gonna have a lot less damage, wrinkles, than they would in their 90s, right?
mhm.
So if your red blood cells are living longer, they're gonna have more damage. So this would be an alternative test to that, um, that would kind of show you maybe a better, more accurate result for somebody who was doing carnivore, I
So I
believe.
do think ultimately it would confirm or at least lead help you lead to the conclusion that your red blood cells are living longer if your A1C is higher, but the glycated albumin is in a really good optimal or good normal
Yeah.
range. Yeah. So
Yeah, that
we'll
makes
see what
sense.
happens there.
Okay, we've got one more chapter,
Yes.
and these chapters aren't too long, but okay, so you wanna read this little
Sure.
bit, or do you have it open?
I've got it open, but my phone, the it locked back up. Okay. All right. Vitamin D. I'm sorry, sun. Looking at vitamin D. Sun. God made the sun and God made you. And the quote is, I think you might dispense with half your doctors if you would only consult Dr. Sun more. Henry Ward Beecher. And
I
the
like that
sun
one.
does work wonders. Now I know that we were talking, or I was running my mouth about like seasonal, um, how the seasons affect me. And I can tell I'm different in the wintertime. Like I'll be little Miss, busy bee for the next, 6 months or 7 months until,
Yeah.
mid fall. And then that's when it starts. So the lie is exposure to sunlight causes skin cancer. To decrease the risk of skin cancer, you should stay out of the sun as much as possible. If you must be in the sun, then you should wear lots of high SPF sunscreen. You should even wear sunscreen when you're inside if you will be exposed to sunlight from windows. And why you should care. Anytime medical science tells you to avoid nature or something natural, your BS sensor should sound an alarm. And it it
Yeah.
it, it does on this. It hasn't made much sense to me either. If we're now
Hold on, I gotta plug
considering
in.
if we're now considering the sun to be dangerous, you should protect yourself from it. And there better be some good research to back it up. However, if there is no meaningful research to support this dangerous sun theory, then you may continue to play in the sun and use it to make vitamin D as humans have done for thousands of years. And I'm going to just be honest, I have always ignored that. I've always
Me too.
gone out in the sun and I feel so much better when I do. And I look better when I have a tan.
Yeah, we look better in the summer, we feel better, got a little color to us,
Yep.
and, mentally, it just affects. I feel like I can just feel the sun just soaking into my brain.
Yes.
It sounds so crazy, but it really has that profound of an effect on my mental status. I cannot wait for spring. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just I know it's technically, almost here, but it sure doesn't feel like it. But I mean, it just does something to me. And that's why I love to go down to Florida and go to the ocean. There's just something about it that just makes me feel fantastic
And
all the way
one thing
around.
I've been known to do in the winter, I used to do it pretty regularly, but I just haven't the last couple years or so, is I would go to the tanning bed in the winter. Now, I wouldn't get brown as a biscuit, as Dr. Berry says, but I would get pretty brown, but it just I don't know, the smell of the lotion, which I know some people say you shouldn't rub that stuff on you, but I
Yeah.
do. The lotion that in the tanning bed, I love it. I just love the way it smells, and it reminds me of Hawaiian Tropic when I was a teenager and we used to go to the pool. I mean, and I just oh,
Yeah.
man, it takes you back, and you just feel so freaking good, and it's the
I
dead of
know.
winter, and you feel that good, so, yeah.
I know. And there's some part of life that I'm just I guess some people are that way with food. They're just not willing to compromise because it affects the quality of their life. Well, I'm not willing to, just slather on sunscreen and not have that glow in the summer because that affects the quality of my life. It really does. And the whole thing about burning and stuff, um, I have been looking into this lately, and I really feel like and this is not just coming from me. I've read some stuff on it. Basically, what we give our body to make our cells out of is literally what it makes our skin out of, too.
Mhm.
So if you give your body a bunch of junk, boxed and bagged food and really poor, especially vegetable oil and those type of oils, that's what it has to make the fat out of your cell membranes out of. That's what it has to make your skin cells out of. And that burns easier.
Mhm.
Carnivores aren't crazy when they're all saying we're not getting burned. It's a real thing.
Yep.
And I have something really crazy to tell you.
What's
I
that?
actually put it as a comment on Carrie's channel because I knew that he wouldn't. I'll bring this comment back here in just a second. I knew that Carrie wouldn't think that I was crazy of all people, that he would be like, well, heck yeah, that makes sense to me. But this has happened twice to me, okay, since I've been carnivore. I have I'm very clumsy and when I cook, and that's why I use an air fryer a lot. But I've been using my cast iron skillet, and you know how you have to have that thing that goes on the end of it or you'll burn the crap out of yourself?
Mhm.
Well, I just reach right for it and put my hand all the way around that cast iron
Oh.
handle, not once, Carrie, but twice. Now
Oh.
the first time yeah, yeah, it's bad. The first time, I wrapped my hand around it so much and left it for so long that when I thought, "Oh my god, this is gonna be bad," like, back 10 months ago when I was eating a crap diet, it would have been a blistered up, horrible looking burn.
Mhm.
It almost made me feel crazy because I'm like, "What is going on? I don't feel this like I should." Like, it doesn't feel like it should. The severity of the burn wasn't there, and it was a real thing. It happened twice. And the next day, I mean, I could barely even see, like, right here, I could barely
Wow.
see where I had grabbed the edge of that handle. But the burn is not as severe, and it's because my cells and my skin is made from good stuff that it's actually supposed to be made out of. And it makes a lot of sense when I look at, like, how when I was eating crap foods, I used to go down to Florida and I would just get blistered. I mean, just bubbled. And it's because it's not the appropriate thing that skin cells are supposed to be made out of.
Mhm.
But I have to, as full disclosure, that's my theory, my opinion, but it's not just mine. There are other people that have, and much more intelligent people than me who have confirmed that this is the case. Um, I don't know if there's been any studies done on it or not,
I
but
don't either, but I can tell you that I have the same thing. Like, for example, on a couple of occasions last summer, my daughter and I went to the farmer's market, and then I also went to the Highland Games, and it was like in the upper 90s on those days when I went to those various events. And I had like just a tank shirt on, and I did not put on any sunscreen or anything. And I did get red, but then it was like the next day it was just gone. Like there was no
yeah,
peeling, there was no,
same.
I
And
mean,
that was with Florida with me.
yeah.
And even when I did, I did get a little bit of a burn, because I was being stubborn. I just stayed out all day long in it here
Mhm.
in Kentucky, and I was taking care of my pool. And my husband's like, "You better watch it now. You're getting burned." And I came in, and the back of my neck was real red, and my shoulders were real red. But the next day, it
Yeah.
was gone. I mean, virtually gone.
Yep.
Not it was tanning.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
it's amazing. Okay, so, Darth Carnivore said, that he was curious because, he had his glycated albumin checked, just waiting on results. A1C crept up slightly in strict carnivore. So I would be interested. I
Me
wish you would
too.
let us know,
Mhm.
what you find out there. And, Mike is a quarter Sicilian, don't burn easily anyway, but last summer was in the hot sun for over 6 hours and no sunburn. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a real thing, y'all. I'm telling you, your body is literally I love to say this, literally made of what you
I
give it.
love that comment because it's, I don't know, I actually wrote next to the sun on my notes, I wrote, "We've suddenly become vampires!" Exclamation point.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, but it's the truth. It's like they want you to just like stay in, and it's the worst thing,
Yeah.
to stay in and just you, our bodies were not meant to be stuck inside under fluorescent lighting and
No.
no sun exposure, very limited movement, or when you do movement, it's not out in nature. Instead, it's in a gym. And I mean, no offense. I used to get some pleasure out of going to the Y or to the gym. And for a while where I worked, we had a place where we could work out. And if I had friends or something, and it was very convenient to me, I would do it. But honestly, I love just being outside, hiking, walking. Those are my jams. And you don't have to
Mhm.
convince me to do them. I just enjoy them and I feel better. So I don't know. We just weren't meant to be so.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's one thing with my children and their generation especially, they're like almost just, "Oh, look, don't go out in the sun." And I'm gonna drag their little butts out in the sun because it is so good for you. It's just so good for you. David says he finds Kenberry and Bart K very informative. Very, yeah, I do as well. Now, Bart K for me is just so difficult to follow at times because he's so I mean, not that Ken Berry's not intelligent. He's very intelligent, but Dr. Ken Berry is like breaks it down on a common sense, every man's level. And Bart K, I have to really implement some of that nursing knowledge when I listen to him because he's a smart cookie and he says it on a professor level.
Yeah.
Susie said she can say her sun tolerance is much better now that she's been carnivore for 2+ years. She can be out for an hour in the heat of the day and not feel like she's roasting. It's a real thing. It as somebody who has always just been taught what the medical establishment has taught me in nursing, it really makes me feel a little nutty to talk about this. It makes me feel like people are going to say, "Oh, she thinks that?" Like that can't be. I I mean, I just need to find the reasons. I need to find why it is that way because it's a real thing. Um, she says she's found lion diet late or found herself pretty much lion diet lately because I'm getting lazy. Some things like 1 teaspoon of raw sugar in my one coffee is untouchable for me. It's my line in the sand. And
Mhm.
this is funny, Sandra. I've been thinking about this recently. So all of these sweeteners are so bad for us that part of me is like, okay, if I'm gonna have a coffee, wouldn't it be better for me to have 1 teaspoon of raw, unbleached sugar rather
Mhm.
than I mean, even stevia seems like it's not a great thing from what we've read from Jason Fung.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I'm just gonna have to choose my bad, and I've got this sensor here, and so I
Mhm.
thought, "Well, I've got this. I think I'm gonna do me a little test and see if I were to put 1 teaspoon in there, how much would it make it rise?" Or I might just do away with coffee altogether because do I really need it, you know? I don't know. But we all have to I like that Sandra said this though, because this is not a religion. We don't have to be 100% anything. Okay. If we want to be, sure, that's great. Do it. Go for it.
Mhm.
But nobody should ever make you feel bad because you like 1 teaspoon of coffee or 1 teaspoon of 1 teaspoon of coffee in your sugar, 1 teaspoon of sugar in your coffee, you know, and whether or not it's better or worse than an artificial sweetener, I mean, as much as we talk about artificial, processed food and stuff and how much it can affect our
Mhm.
gut bacteria, it makes me wonder. It really does.
I actually had
Um,
had that thought, I mean, before that it's probably better to have just sugar if you were gonna
yeah.
and not I'm
I
not talking
mean,
about eating
and
like
I'm
tons
not
of
saying like
sugar,
you need to have it or you have to have it, but
but
like,
if
is
yeah,
it really like I know Splenda's not better because it's got
right, it's
pretty much sugar in it. Would
yeah,
Splenda be better? I don't know. It
yeah. I just
disrupts
think
your
if
gut
you're gonna have
bacteria.
something like that, that it would be better to have sugar. That's just my thought. It's not a scientific opinion
It's
at all.
yeah, it's kind of what I'm leaning towards lately, not and
Yeah.
by no means am I gonna go out and have sugar because
Nope.
sugar is poison for me. It is literal poison for me because with somebody with a history of chronic candida, that's what it feeds on. But the artificial sweeteners that I've gone overboard on because I thought I could,
Mhm.
that's also not great for me. Um, let's see. Yeah, I definitely think, Mike, that it's the seed oils. All
I
right,
think
let's finish this up real quick.
well, here's the thing, I thought this was hilarious because he was saying, so if they were gonna tell humans to stay out of the sun that they've been enjoying for all these, thousands and millions of years or, since the dawn of humanity, then you would think that there would be studies that would support this, and there's not any. And either that or they were just such garbage studies. And one of them, for example, used foreskins that had
Oh,
already been removed from babies as a basis for their conclusion. And
oh
so it
my
was like,
gosh.
yeah, yeah, I'm gonna keep going out in the sun. And we need vitamin D. The sun is essential for waking up that hormone, for the vitamin D to
Yeah.
be um, dispersed in our bodies. It helps generate it and helps our bodies process it. And so gosh, no wonder people are vitamin D deficient. They don't get vitamin D to start with, and then they can't synthesize it, I guess would be maybe the right word, because they don't get out in the sun and actually, get that process started. And then no wonder
Mhm.
so many people are depressed. I
Mhm.
mean, think about that. They're
Yeah.
stuck indoors all day, and like I said, under fluorescent lighting, and they might go to a gym and work out maybe, but I mean, they're just not
And
getting out in nature.
so and what you just said about the whole skin cancer thing
Mhm.
is also goes along with the whole burn theory, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So if your skin is made out of vegetable oil and other garbage, maybe that skin is more likely to get, melanoma, other skin cancers. Maybe that's why, because it's not a natural thing. It's not what your skin's supposed to be made out of. So
And then
maybe instead of eating the crap food and slathering ourselves with more chemicals to protect
Mhm.
ourselves from something completely natural, we should just eat completely natural food and leave the chemicals off and not have to protect ourselves with anything other than maybe a sun hat or, just I mean, people used to put,
Yeah.
something across their head, even a towel or, I mean, that's the reason why people
Mhm.
and anyway. Um,
Oh, but here's this was something that I didn't really realize this, but a large study showed that outdoor workers were less likely to get skin cancer and that melanoma also appears on parts of the body that either have very little or no
yes.
sun exposure.
Yes,
So that's
exactly.
something that it's just like, it's kind of like the whole cholesterol thing. So LDL is bad, but then you get these people over here who it doesn't seem to give them heart disease, but they're just outliers or something. Well, no, your whole hypothesis is wrong. I think. I mean, I think if you if you have enough of the black swans that you have to relook at your at what you're thinking or what you're thinking is true. Yeah.
Yeah. So Julie said allulose is not supposed to be bad, not supposed to spike blood sugar or even break fast. She's used the RX Sugar brand. Okay. So I can't remember from the book, from the Jason Fung book. Do you remember, Carrie, if
I don't
allulose
remember
raises
allulose.
insulin?
I don't remember allulose specifically, but I have seen and I haven't watched them. To be fair, there's been a couple of videos on my feed that have talked about allulose, something about a new sweetener that um, I don't know doesn't raise insulin or something like that, or doesn't raise blood sugar. But here's the thing: like um, apparently fructose doesn't raise your insulin either, or there's in other
It
words,
doesn't
there's
raise raise your
raise your blood
glucose,
sugar, your glucose level, yeah, but it affects you in other ways, so I'm just not
but
I
it can
haven't
it
read up
can
on it
also
enough.
glycate just like
Yeah,
glucose, and it's not measured by the,
yeah,
I
so
don't
you
even think
wouldn't
it's
know.
measured by the,
They wouldn't
glycated
do
anyway.
yeah, yeah, it's not measured by
It's
that, so
it's above
they
my
have
head at this
different
point.
yeah, they have different mechanisms. I know, I'm blaming time change. I'm so
Well,
glad
I
my
just gotta
brother
be honest, like, I mean, I hopefully, just putting nurse in my name, like, hopefully nobody actually expects that I know all of this stuff because most nurses don't know all of this stuff. This is just stuff I study on my own, but, I
mhm,
feel like I should know it, to be able to explain it to other people, but then again, I'm just learning it myself. And I mean, we've both been studying this stuff a long time. So it's new questions come up every day though.
sure do. So I'm gonna have to
Um,
look into allulose just to so
yeah,
that
me
I'll be
too.
familiar with it because I know about the other sweeteners. I've read up on them quite a bit, and of course, like in Dr. Fung's book, some of the things that he
Thanks,
pointed
Sandra.
out were very surprising. So
Yes, exactly.
I'll have to look into the allulose. I don't know.
Oh, Darth Carnivore, my skin has also not been better since eating carnivore. Um, I mean, those two little bumps that I was calling maybe zits over the past 3 days and the itching and stuff, that is probably all I've had in, I mean, months.
Hmm.
Just my skin just feels good. I notice every morning when I'm washing my face, it's just like, wow, whose skin is this? This is this is amazing.
So
And it may
yeah.
not even look that much better, but the feel, it just
Mhm.
it feels different. There was a period where my skin just felt like sandpaper.
Yeah, and I never had a big problem with bumps, but I would get bumps periodically.
Uh-huh.
And they got better they got a lot better with keto. I would still get them on occasion, but not very often. But then after carnivore, I mean, I can't I've been carnivore almost, going on my 15th month this month, and I haven't had a zit or a bump in I don't know how long. And then couple that with using my friend's tallow soap that she makes, and
Mhm.
it's, like, got, like, 3 ingredients. It's made like the old-fashioned soaps were made. and oh my gosh, it's the best soap I've ever used in my life. I
Oh,
use it
really?
exclusively now. It is just it's yes, I use it all over my whole body now, and it's
Send
fabulous.
me, a link or something. I'd like to try it.
I'll send you a bar or
Or does
2
she
because
sell it?
she doesn't sell it, she does it for fun, and she just
Oh,
so, like, she'll guinea pig use me as a guinea pig, and I'm more than happy to try it because her ingredients are clean and stuff, and so she'll
yeah.
just give me bars and just say, "Here," and, like, some of them she will put, like, a lavender scent or something in, but I get mostly I use just the ones that have no scent at all, they're just and yeah, the ingredients are clean and it's fabulous. I'll send you yeah, I'll send you some.
Oh, and then I was wanting to tell you too before I forget. I have decided, my husband and I decided today that we're not going on our yearly Florida vacation. We're just kind of like wanting to save money and burn out on it and stuff. But I was thinking I might have to bring him down to Nashville because
Oh,
we've been talking
yes.
about that for a while. So maybe if we do, we could catch up with you. My
Oh,
husband would love
yes.
you.
Oh,
'Cause you guys
yes.
would have a lot in common with the music and stuff. But anyway, but we'll talk about that later. I'll have to
Yeah.
figure out, when I can get out of town and stuff, um, but anyway, have we wrapped it up here? Let's see here.
I think
Do as
we
I
have.
do. He eats many colorful servings of veggies a day. This is an old book, he's carnivore now.
Yeah.
Takes his vitamins and plays in the sun all he wants. But this also goes to show you that if you eat the proper foods, even including veggies and some fruits, that
Mhm.
you're still not going to burn as much as you will. It
Yep.
says, I have a fair complexion, so I still burn if I stay in the sun too long, but I try to never do that. Sunburns that cause peeling hurt and that kind of extreme sun exposure might be what leads to an increased skin cancer risk. When he ate a grain based junk food diet, he burned easily and
Mhm.
terribly after only a short time in the sun. Had a much higher, she says, I probably had a much higher risk of skin cancer back then as well. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to read that whole thing. You guys got to buy his book. He's they're redoing this book, so I don't know if you want to buy this one or wait for the new one, but it's a good one to have.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then the homework here, he wants us to email the AAD and the ASDS. What is the AAD? American Association of Dermatologists, maybe, and
Probably.
ASDS is, uh, let's see, American Society for Dermatologic Surgery. So he wants us
Mhm.
to email them and ask us to provide studies that prove that the sun causes skin cancer. And I take it he has done this and he has not received any information that actually confirms that it does.
Maybe we'll just send
So,
them the foreskin one and just be like, "Really?"
yeah, I mean, like dead foreskin. This is
I
dead
know.
skin.
That's
How
yeah.
would dead skin behave as living skin on a person? It
Right,
makes no sense.
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's like I always say, these things over the years that you just in your head, when you read it or you see it or, you just think, I don't believe that. But that's not true. And you may not even know why it's not true,
Right.
but your rational brain is like, I cannot believe that. It's just not a possibility for me. So anyway, guys, I have got to get out of here because my boys have lessons tonight. But it has been wonderful seeing you
Yes.
again. And I'm sorry we were gone for 2 weeks. Um, but yeah, you guys, if you want to check out either one of our channels, I'm Nurse Kim at Nurse Kimberly Lane, and Carrie is at My Metamorphosis. And we would be glad to have you.
Yeah.
And I don't have anything else to add. Do you?
No, I just look forward to, um, chatting with people if you wanna come and, watch videos and leave some comments, ask some
Yeah.
questions, whatever I wanna engage. I love it. I love it. So come
Yeah,
visit
me too.
me. You're
Me
welcome.
too.
And
This I've been telling people.
you don't have to be
Huh?
a strict you don't have to be a strict, diehard, whatever,
No, you're very
meat-based is good
accepting.
enough for me, and even if you're a vegan or vegetarian and you just happen to catch this, if you have any questions for me, I mean, legit questions, I mean, I'll be glad to answer them.
I mean, as long as you're nice, you can
Yeah,
be my friend. I have vegan friends, I have
yeah,
vegetarian friends. One of my very best friends is vegetarian, but she's respectful of me and I'm respectful of her, so
yeah,
and she cooks her, fiance meat. 'Cause she's that she's just that, that person.
yeah,
She's gonna do her own thing and let everybody else do theirs, and that's what I'm about too. But, yeah, we would love to have you guys, and, until then, I guess next week, what are we gonna do? 20, 21, 22, 23.
23, 23, that
Chapters
works for me.
20 through
Yeah,
23.
yeah, that'll be for
Alright?
yeah, and I wrote
Sounds
it
good.
down, I think I wrote it down last time, but I don't know why I got mixed up and read one that I'd already read, but I did read the ones that I needed to read, but I was just like,
Yeah.
"Why did I get" I don't know.
I always go too
Trying to
far
think.
because I'm listening and the chapters don't coincide, they're, like, 4 off. So, anyway, I'll see you guys, and,
Bye,
we'll talk
everybody.
to you next week. Bye. Thanks, guys.
Have a good week.
Bye-bye.